There's a painful truth most people refuse to accept. You can love someone deeply and still need to walk away. You can forgive someone 100 times, and they will hurt you the exact same way on the 101st. Forgiveness is a virtue, but it is not a requirement. Not when it destroys your peace. Not when it weakens your boundaries. Not when it becomes an invitation for others to disrespect you again and again. Stoicism teaches compassion, yes. But it also teaches self-protection, discernment, and the courage to cut off what is harmful. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you should choose your company wisely, because the people around you shape your mindset, your habits, and your destiny. Some people lift you higher, but others slowly poison you while smiling in your face. And the most dangerous people aren't always your enemies. Sometimes they're the people closest to you, the ones who apologize beautifully, who pretend to care, who promise they'll change but never do. Forgiveness is powerful, but forgiving the wrong people is self-betrayal. This isn't about holding grudges. It's about recognizing the people who have already shown you who they are, people who repeat the same behaviors, who drain your spirit, who break your trust without hesitation, and who will absolutely hurt you again if you let them back in. These are the types of people you should never forgive, not because you're heartless, but because you've finally learned to protect your peace. And before we dive in, if you're finding value here, do me a quick favor, hit that like button and subscribe to Stoic Code. It helps more than you know, and it keeps this channel growing. Now, let's begin. I want to share something personal. I get messages from people who feel surrounded by fake friends, constant drama, or emotional chaos, people who just want a place to be real. That's why I created a private Patreon community, a space where you can open up, share what you're going through, and get my personal insights. It's also where you can request specific video topics. If there's something you're struggling with that you want me to break down here on Stoic Code, that's the place to let me know. If you're serious about growth, peace, and self-awareness, you'll fit right in. The link is below. Now, let's get into it. First, the abuser. There are mistakes, and then there are patterns. Abuse is never a mistake. It's never just a moment of anger. It's never caused by stress, frustration, or a bad day. Abuse is a decision to dominate, to control, to belittle, or to harm. And once someone crosses that line, once they feel the power that comes from breaking another human being, they rarely, if ever, turn back. Stoicism teaches that a wise person protects their inner peace the same way a warrior protects their life. And nothing destroys your peace more effectively than an abuser who keeps re-entering your world under the disguise of, "I've changed." Abusers don't change because you forgave them. They change only when they decide to confront their darkness, and most never do. What they do instead is perfect the cycle: hurt, apologize, promise, repeat. At first, the abuse might be subtle, a sarcastic insult, a small humiliation in front of others, a disrespectful comment brushed off as just joking. But abusers escalate. Their apologies shrink. Your self-worth erodes. And suddenly, what was once unacceptable becomes something you rationalize just to survive. The Stoics believe that allowing someone to repeatedly harm you is not compassion, it is self-betrayal. Seneca said it clearly: the person who has done wrong will do wrong again. Forgiving an abuser doesn't heal the relationship, it hands them permission. It shows them that no matter how far they go, you will stay. And abusers love people who stay. Imagine Sarah. She meets someone charming, attentive, almost too perfect. He showers her with affection, compliments, promises. She feels safe, chosen, seen. Then the shift begins. It starts small, a rude comment about her friends, a complaint about how she dresses, a joke about her intelligence that doesn't feel like a joke. When she brings it up, he sighs and says, "You're too sensitive. You're imagining things." Soon, comments become insults. Insults become shouting. Shouting becomes anger. And anger becomes violence, not always physical, but emotional, psychological, manipulative. One night, after he breaks something and blames her, Sarah says she's done. She tells him she wants to leave. And just like that, he transforms again. He cries, collapses on his knees, apologizes with trembling hands, promises therapy, change, the man she first met. He tells her, "No one will ever love you like I do," a sentence that sounds tender but is really a threat. Sarah stays because she remembers the good moments, because she believes in forgiveness, because the thought of abandoning someone she loved feels cruel. For 2 weeks, things seem better. He's gentle, calm, the man she fell for. Until he isn't. The cycle repeats, worse this time. And Sarah realizes the painful truth, the version of him she misses never existed. It was bait. Stoicism would tell Sarah something simple yet life-changing: if a person destroys your peace, they do not belong in your life, not even once, and certainly not twice. Abusers do not respect boundaries. They do not respect vulnerability. They do not respect the people who forgive them, they exploit them. Forgiving an abuser isn't noble, it's dangerous, because every second chance becomes an opportunity for them to refine their cruelty. No matter how much history you share, no matter how many apologies they give, no matter how deeply you once loved them, an abuser will hurt you again. And the most powerful form of forgiveness is letting them go forever. Second, the serial cheater. Cheating isn't an accident. It isn't something that just happens. It isn't a moment of weakness or a slip caused by temptation. Cheating is always a choice made long before it physically happens. The truth most people don't want to confront is this: a person who cheats once is announcing what they're capable of. A person who cheats repeatedly is announcing who they truly are. Serial cheaters don't just betray your trust, they dismantle it piece by piece until you can no longer recognize yourself in the relationship. The damage they cause reaches deeper than heartbreak. It hits your self-worth, your confidence, your belief in love, even your sense of reality. And the worst part: they expect forgiveness, not because they're remorseful, but because they know you still care. Stoicism teaches that betrayal is less about the act itself and more about the violation of virtue, character, and loyalty. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you must not repeatedly place your trust in those who have already shown you their instability. A cheater's instability isn't accidental, it's strategic. Serial cheaters operate in cycles: desire, deception, discovery, apology, reformation, repetition. Their apologies are not apologies, they are performances. Their promises are not commitments, they are scripts. Their tears are not guilt, they are manipulation. They apologize just enough to reset the relationship, but never enough to change themselves. A serial cheater cheats for 3 main reasons: a lack of internal discipline, a craving for validation, and a belief that you won't leave. When someone thinks you will always forgive them, they do not improve, they deteriorate. They grow bold, take risks, respect you less each time. And you must understand this brutal Stoic truth, that the more you forgive a serial cheater, the more you teach them how little they need to do to keep you. Cheating isn't a one-time betrayal, it's the conscious destruction of trust, loyalty, and emotional safety. Forgiving a serial cheater is like patching a sinking ship, they will poke new holes faster than you can repair them. Imagine Daniel and Maya. Daniel was charming, ambitious, funny, everything Maya ever wanted. Early on, he adored her: constant compliments, long calls, romantic gestures. Maya felt she'd found her person. But warning signs appeared. Daniel hid his phone more often, took calls in another room, was protective in ways he never was before. One day, Maya discovered flirtatious messages. When she confronted him, Daniel fell apart, crying, apologizing, claiming he didn't want to lose her, saying it meant nothing. He was drunk, he was insecure, every line serial cheaters memorize. Maya forgave him. Things felt better for a while. Daniel was attentive again, present, loving. But this wasn't change, it was the honeymoon phase of manipulation. A few months later, the pattern returned: late replies, sudden work emergencies, phone constantly on silent, new excuses, new lies. Maya's intuition screamed, but her heart whispered hope. One night, after a gut-wrenching feeling, she checked his phone again. There they were, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 different ongoing flirty chats with other women, some dating back months. When she confronted him, Daniel didn't deny. Instead, he flipped the script. You don't give me enough attention. You've changed. You're making me feel trapped. You know how I am. Why can't you be more understanding? That's the key point. Serial cheaters believe their behavior is your responsibility, not theirs. Maya left. But a week later, Daniel showed up at her door with flowers, letters, promises. He cried, begged, swore he'd change, said he'd go to therapy, even said he wanted to marry her. He said everything except the truth. He didn't want to be faithful, he wanted to be forgiven. Stoicism would tell Maya, and anyone in her position, do not return to the person who repeatedly wounds your soul, for they have shown you their nature, and it is not your duty to suffer for it. Daniel didn't cheat because he lacked love, he cheated because he lacked character. And no amount of forgiveness can give someone a character they refuse to build. The Stoic verdict: a serial cheater is not someone who made a mistake, they are someone who made a habit. They are not sorry for what they did, only sorry they were caught. Forgiving them is not compassion, it is enabling. Because the truth is simple: if someone disrespects your relationship once, it's a warning. If they do it twice, it's a pattern. If they do it 3 times, it's who they are, and they will hurt you again. Third, the disrespectful person. Respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship, romantic, family, friendship, or professional. Without respect, love becomes manipulation, communication becomes conflict, understanding becomes resentment, and connection becomes a battlefield. A disrespectful person doesn't always shout, they don't always insult loudly. Often, their disrespect is subtle: quiet digs, dismissive tones, rolling eyes, constant interruptions, mocking jokes, or talking over you whenever you speak. But whether loud or silent, disrespect has one purpose: to make you feel smaller. Stoicism teaches that we must accept reality as it is, not as we want it to be. And the reality is simple: a person who repeatedly disrespects you is telling you exactly how they value you, not with their words, but with their behavior. Disrespect can show up in countless forms: ignoring your boundaries, laughing at your feelings, dismissing your achievements, interrupting your thoughts, belittling your dreams, mocking your appearance, comparing you to others, speaking to you with sarcasm instead of sincerity, talking at you instead of talking with you. And each time it happens, you lose a little more of yourself. You start adjusting your behavior to avoid their reactions, you shrink your voice, soften your truth, try not to trigger their attitude. That is how disrespect slowly erodes your self-worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you must stand straight, not be held straight. In other words, you must maintain your dignity without waiting for others to honor it. But you also must understand this truth: a person who feels comfortable disrespecting you once will feel even more comfortable doing it again. Disrespect escalates. What begins as sarcasm turns into criticism. What begins as criticism turns into humiliation. What begins as humiliation turns into emotional harm. Some people disrespect you because they envy you. Some do it because belittling others makes them feel powerful. Some do it because they grew up in environments where disrespect was normal. But many do it simply because they know you will tolerate it. That's why forgiving a disrespectful person doesn't heal the relationship, it trains them. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Imagine a woman named Layla. She's dating someone named Chris. At the start, things were great: he was charming, funny, outgoing. But slowly, his true behavior began to show. Whenever Layla shared her dreams, Chris would laugh and say, "Be serious. You really think you can do that?" Whenever she expressed her feelings, he'd roll his eyes and reply, "Here we go again. You're too emotional." Whenever she made a mistake, even a small one, he'd mock her in front of his friends, saying things like, "Don't mind her. She doesn't know what she's talking about." At first, Layla brushed it off. She thought maybe he was just joking, maybe she was too sensitive, maybe she misunderstood. But time exposed the truth: this wasn't joking, teasing, or miscommunication. This was a pattern. One evening at dinner with friends, Layla shared an idea she was excited about. Before she could even finish her sentence, Chris interrupted her loudly. Why are you talking about things you don't understand? Just stick to what you know. Everyone fell silent. Layla felt her face burn with humiliation, and Chris smirked like it was funny. That night, she confronted him calmly. Chris shrugged and said, "You're too sensitive. Stop making everything a big deal. No responsibility, no apology, no awareness, just deflection." That was the moment Layla realized something important. Respect is not something you can beg for, it's something people either give naturally or withhold intentionally. She left him. And Chris, he didn't chase her, he didn't apologize, he didn't reflect. Because disrespectful people rarely see anything wrong with their behavior. To them, your pain is an inconvenience, not a concern. The Stoic lesson, Epictetus said, you become what you tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you become a version of yourself that is smaller, quieter, weaker, more doubtful. Disrespect is a boundary violation, a character flaw, a habit. And habits don't change because of apologies, they change because of accountability. So understand this, a disrespectful person will disrespect you again, not because you deserve it, but because that is who they are. Forgive yourself for staying too long, but don't forgive them enough to let them back in. Fourth, the habitual liar. A single lie can be a mistake, a moment of fear, poor judgment. But a habitual liar is someone who has chosen deception as a lifestyle. A habitual liar lies even when the truth is easier. They lie to protect their image, to manipulate outcomes, to avoid responsibility, or simply because lying has become their default language. Stoicism places heavy weight on truth because truth is the foundation of trust, clarity, reason, and stable relationships. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nothing is more honorable than being straightforward and pure. A habitual liar is the opposite, twisted, foggy, inconsistent. And the most dangerous part. They don't just lie about big things, they lie about small things, about things that don't matter, even when there's no benefit. Their lies become layers so thick even they start forgetting what they said to who. And when you confront them, they deny, deflect, blame you for being paranoid. They twist reality so aggressively that you begin questioning your own memory. This is how habitual liars work. They don't just blur the truth, they blur your ability to trust yourself. Relationships cannot survive that. A habitual liar turns your mind into a battlefield. You start replaying conversations, second-guessing your instincts, feeling guilty for noticing red flags. Your nervous system becomes hyper-alert, always searching for inconsistencies. That is not love, that is psychological erosion. Stoicism teaches that peace comes from clarity and consistency. A habitual liar offers neither. Their presence forces you into a state of mental conflict, the exact opposite of Stoic tranquility. And you must recognize this truth, a habitual liar doesn't stop lying because you forgave them, they stop only when lying stops working. Forgiveness to them is not grace, it is an invitation. Imagine someone named David. He's charming, charismatic, confident, a person who speaks beautifully and promises effortlessly. But behind the charm is a pattern of dishonesty that grows deeper with time. He tells his partner, Amina, he's working late, but he wasn't, he was out with friends. He tells her he forgot to reply to her message, but he didn't forget, he chose not to. He says he's never lied to her before, but that's a lie, too. One day, Amina finds a receipt in his car for something he claimed he never bought. She confronts him gently, I just want the truth. But instead of owning up, David becomes defensive, you're overreacting. Why don't you trust me? You always look for problems. He flips the script, makes her feel guilty, unreasonable, unstable. This is what habitual liars do, they don't correct the behavior, they correct your belief about the behavior. A few weeks later, Amina notices inconsistencies in his stories, timelines don't match, explanations change, small details keep shifting. When she confronts him again, he gives a tearful apology, swears it was just one lie, promises honesty from now on, even says, I lied because I didn't want to lose you. But the truth is more painful, he lied because he knew she'd forgive him. And sure enough, he lies again and again and again. Amina begins doubting herself, reading old messages, asking mutual friends for clarity, staying up at night replaying conversations. Her peace is gone, her stability gone, her self-trust broken, not because she wasn't enough, but because David's lies forced her mind into constant survival mode. And one day she realizes something Stoicism teaches clearly: you cannot build a future with someone who forces you to question the past every day. A habitual liar is not someone who made a mistake, they are someone who makes deception their identity. The Stoic lesson, Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. A habitual liar is dyed with deception. Their character has been shaped by shortcuts, avoidance, manipulation. They don't value truth, so they don't value you. And no amount of forgiveness can rebuild trust with someone who chooses dishonesty as their default. Here is the reality: if someone lies repeatedly, they are not protecting you, they are protecting themselves at your expense. Forgive yourself for believing them, but do not forgive them enough to let them back into your life. Some people don't deserve another chance, especially the ones who ruin your ability to trust your own mind. Fifth, the chronic excuse maker. Some people ruin your life with lies, betrayal, or abuse. Others ruin it with something far more subtle: excuses. The chronic excuse maker isn't loud, cruel, or aggressive. They won't scream at you, cheat on you, or insult you, but they will drain you slowly, silently, consistently, until you're carrying the weight of their entire life on your shoulders. Chronic excuse makers have one defining trait: there is always a reason they didn't do what they said they would do. They always meant to, planned to, wanted to, but somehow, through their own endless stories, they never actually follow through. Stoicism teaches that character is defined by actions, not intentions. The chronic excuse maker lives entirely in intention. They promise the world but deliver nothing. They speak beautifully but do nothing consistently. And they take advantage of kind, patient people who believe in potential more than patterns. The most dangerous thing about chronic excuse makers is this: they make you feel guilty for expecting basic responsibility. When they fail, they don't own it, they explain it. When they disappoint you, they don't apologize, they justify. When they break a promise, they don't correct it, they tell you a story designed to soften your reaction. And they are masters at sounding sincere. They'll say things like, "I was going to, but I didn't have time. It slipped my mind. I'm just overwhelmed. You know how things have been for me. I'll definitely do it next time." Next time never comes. And if it does, it looks exactly like the last time. Stoicism emphasizes responsibility, discipline, and ownership. Excuse makers possess none of these. Their lives are full of unfinished plans, broken commitments, missed opportunities, failed goals, repeated patterns, and endless breadcrumbs of almost. You cannot build a relationship, a business, a family, or a future with someone who refuses to take accountability for even the smallest things. Because here's the truth: excuses are a form of manipulation. They are designed to make you lower your expectations. And chronic excuse makers depend on that. Imagine a man named Cain. He's charming, funny, full of big dreams. He talks about starting a business, saving money, getting in shape, becoming a better version of himself. He talks beautifully, endlessly, but talking is all he does. Every time his girlfriend Arma asks about the goals he promised, Cain has a new excuse: "I was going to wake up early, but I slept late. I was going to finish the application, but I got distracted. I wanted to help you with the chores, but work stressed me out. I was going to show up, but something came up." Arma begins to realize something important: Cain always has time for excuses, but never time for effort. One day, they plan a special date for Arma's birthday, a restaurant she loves, a place she talked about for months. Cain promises he'll make the reservation, swears he won't forget, even says, "Trust me, I got this." The day comes. Arma gets dressed, excited. Cain shows up empty-handed: no reservation, no plan, no effort, just another explanation: "The day got crazy. I thought you said next week. I was going to call, but I had no network. I'll make it up to you, I promise. But he never does. Arma realizes the truth every chronic excuse maker forces you to confront. They don't forget, they prioritize everything except you. And they hide the truth behind stories designed to keep you patient. Arma isn't angry anymore, she's tired. Tired of planning alone, tired of reminding, pushing, motivating, carrying someone who refuses to carry themselves. She finally understands the Stoic teaching: do not expect responsibility from the irresponsible. Excuse makers don't change because you forgive them, they only change when life forces them to face the consequences of their behavior. And even then, most don't. Forgiving them only resets the cycle: excuse, forgiveness, promise, disappointment, repeat. This is how they waste years of your life. The Stoic lesson: Seneca wrote, "A foolish person blames others. A wise person takes responsibility." The chronic excuse maker is always stuck in the first category. They blame circumstances, timing, luck, everything except themselves. And the more you accept their excuses, the more you enable their stagnation. Eventually, you'll wake up and realize you've been building a future with someone who refuses to build anything at all. Forgive them if you must, but do not let them take another year from your life. Because a person who cannot show up for themselves will never show up for you. Sixth, the energy drainer. Some people don't hurt you with insults, betray you with lies, or attack you directly. Instead, they drain you slowly, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, until you have nothing left for yourself. These are the people who turn every interaction into a burden. They enter a room and the air gets heavier. They speak and you immediately feel tired. They live in a constant storm of chaos, crisis, and self-created drama. And guess who they expect to fix it every single time? You. Energy drainers always need something: your time, your emotional support, your reassurance, your attention, your sympathy, your shoulder to cry on, but never your advice, because they don't actually want to change. They want to vent, complain, and dump their problems on you. And the moment you need support, they suddenly vanish. Stoicism teaches balance and emotional responsibility. But energy drainers have none. They expect you to carry them, heal them, be their personal therapist, yet they never look inward, never take responsibility, never improve their own life. What makes them dangerous is that their damage isn't dramatic, it's gradual. You don't realize how drained you are until you start avoiding their messages, or you see their name pop up on your phone and immediately feel your chest tighten. That's your nervous system telling you the truth: this person is costing you more energy than your life can afford. They disguise themselves as just going through a lot, but somehow they're always going through a lot. There's always a crisis, a problem, a new emotional emergency, and always the expectation that you must save them. Over time, their negativity becomes contagious. You start absorbing their stress, thinking about their issues instead of focusing on your own life, feeling responsible for their happiness. And that's exactly how they trap you. But here's the cold truth: people who drain your energy will never stop until you stop letting them. You can forgive them 1,000 times, support them endlessly, sacrifice your own well-being. But the moment you set a boundary, they call you selfish. The moment you say, "I can't do this anymore," they play the victim, because they were never looking for balance, they were looking for someone to carry their emotional weight for free. Imagine you have a friend named Lisa. Every week she calls you crying about her job, her relationships, her family, and every time you drop everything to comfort her. But weeks turn into months, and nothing changes. She ignores every piece of advice, repeats the same mistakes, starts calling you at midnight expecting you to listen for hours because you're the only one who understands. Then one day you're having a terrible week and you call her needing support. What does she say? "I can't deal with this right now. I have my own problems." That's when you realize it was never a friendship, it was emotional labor disguised as connection. Energy drainers don't care how much you give, they only notice when you stop giving. Stoicism teaches that your peace is sacred, your energy is limited, and your emotional well-being is your responsibility. You can forgive them for not knowing how to manage their emotions, but you should never keep them in your life, because they will drain you until there's nothing left of you to save. 7th, the envious friend. There's no poison more subtle and more destructive than envy. Enemies attack from the outside, but envious friends attack from within. They smile with you, laugh with you, celebrate with you on the surface, but deep down, your success burns them. Your growth threatens them. Your confidence makes them uncomfortable. Your progress reminds them of everything they haven't done. An envious friend doesn't want to see you fail, not exactly. What they want is for you to stay beneath them, small enough not to overshadow them, quiet enough not to intimidate them, successful enough to admire but never successful enough to outshine them. They'll compliment you, but their tone is off. They'll support you, but only halfway. They'll clap, but the sound is hollow. Stoic philosophers warned strongly about keeping the wrong company, especially people who struggle to genuinely celebrate the joy of others, because envy is not just an emotion, it is a threat, a quiet resentment waiting for the right moment to erupt. Envious friends operate in two dangerous ways. 1. They subtly sabotage you, not with obvious attacks, but with tiny cuts of offhand comments, backhanded compliments, doubt disguised as concern. They'll say things like, "Are you sure you can handle that? Don't get too excited, these things don't last. I mean, it's good, but is it really that impressive?" They plant seeds of insecurity, hoping your confidence will shrink. 2. They compete with you in secret. You don't even know you're in a competition until you notice the pattern. You get a new job, they suddenly accidentally mention a race, you start a relationship. They talk about how many people want them, you succeed, and they immediately try to outdo you. But here's the truth, people who care about you don't turn your victories into a race. They don't measure their worth against your achievements. They don't shrink when you shine. Envious friends do. What makes them truly unforgivable is this: they can't help themselves. You didn't provoke their envy, you didn't brag, try to make them feel small. Your existence alone is enough to trigger their insecurity. And you can't fix that. You can't shrink yourself forever just to make someone comfortable. You can't hide your wins to protect someone's ego. You can't sacrifice your potential to maintain their fragile self-esteem. Envy never stays quiet for long. Eventually, it turns into resentment, and resentment turns into betrayal. Imagine you have a friend named Brian. You've known him for years, you've always supported him, encouraged him, celebrated him, even when you weren't doing well yourself. Then one day, you get a promotion you've worked hard for. You're excited, nervous, proud. You tell Brian, expecting genuine happiness. He forces a smile, says, "Wow, must be nice to get lucky like that." Lucky, not hard work, not dedication, just luck. You brush it off, thinking he's having a bad day. But over the next few weeks, you notice things. He stops inviting you places, becomes distant, talks to others about your job not being that big of a deal, makes jokes about your success whenever you're around, says things like, "Careful, don't let it get to your head." You thought you gained a promotion, instead, you lost a friend. But the final blow comes when a mutual friend tells you, "Brian said they think they're better than everyone now." You never said that, you never acted that way. He invented a story to justify the jealousy he couldn't hide. That's when you realize he didn't change, he just couldn't pretend anymore. He wasn't waiting for you to fail, he was waiting for you to stop rising so he could feel tall again. And that is the danger of the envious friend. They don't just dislike your success, they resent your existence when it outgrows them. Why you should never forgive them. Envy is not harmless. It grows quietly, spreads deeply, and eventually turns friends into enemies disguised as companions. You can't fix their insecurity. You can't teach them how to be happy for you. You can't convince them that your shine doesn't dim theirs. The Stoics taught that you must protect your inner peace, and nothing threatens peace more than someone who secretly wants you smaller. Forgiving an envious friend doesn't change who they are, it only gives them more chances to hurt you, and they will, because your progress will always trigger their pain. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the people who can't celebrate your growth, and surround yourself with those who clap when you win, not because they have to, but because they want to. 8th, the opportunist. There are people who don't care about you, they care about what you can do for them. Your value to them isn't in your personality, kindness, or character, it's in your usefulness. Opportunists are the most transactional people you'll ever meet. They don't build friendships, nurture connection, or invest in relationships. They wait, watch, calculate. And the moment they realize you have something they want, status, money, influence, connections, attention, resources, skills, they suddenly become your friend. Not because they like you, not because they respect you, but because you are a stepping stone to something they desire. Stoicism teaches us to judge people by their consistent actions, not by their flattering words. And if you look closely, opportunists reveal themselves quickly. They only show up when it benefits them, disappear the moment you need help, are friendly when they want something and distant when they don't. Opportunists are shapeshifters. They can act caring, loyal, supportive, but it's all performance, a strategy to get closer to what they want. They are the people who praise you publicly but envy you privately, cling to you when you're rising, avoid you when you're struggling, take credit for your success, distance themselves from your failures, drain your resources without guilt, repay your generosity with entitlement. They never ask, "How can I support you?" Their only question is, "What can I get from you?" And the moment you stop being useful, the mask falls. They stop calling, checking in, pretending, because their loyalty was never to you, it was to the advantage you provided. Why opportunists are dangerous. They don't just take from you, they manipulate your kindness to secure their benefits. They exaggerate friendship, loyalty, interest because it makes you feel obligated to keep giving. They guilt-trip you when you say no, call you selfish when you set boundaries, act betrayed when you remove access to your resources. But ask yourself, what did they ever give you except empty words and temporary affection? Stoicism warns that you must guard your inner circle, because the wrong people don't just slow you down, they exploit your generosity until you have nothing left to give. Opportunists know how to look innocent, appear grateful, disguise their intentions as coincidence. But the truth is always the same, they were never there for you, they were there for the opportunity. Imagine you have a friend named Kelvin. When you were struggling financially, he barely checked on you. When you talked about your dreams, he dismissed them. When you needed help, he was always busy. But the moment you start a business, gain a little attention, or begin earning more money, suddenly Kelvin becomes your biggest supporter. He calls more often, compliments your work, tells everyone you're like a brother to him, wants to hang out, collaborate, be part of your journey. At first, you think maybe he just matured, maybe he finally appreciates you. But then it becomes clear, he only calls when he needs money, only supports you when he can benefit, only shows interest when it's connected to your success. One day he asks for a small favor, an introduction to someone influential. You hesitate, tell him you're not comfortable with it. Instantly, his tone changes, he becomes irritated, says things like, "Wow, so that's how you are. I thought we were close." Some people forget where they came from. He tries to shame you for not giving him access to something he never earned. And after that conversation, he stops talking to you altogether, no calls, no messages, no support. Why? Because you were no longer useful. The friendship wasn't real, it was an investment he hoped would pay off. Why you should never forgive an opportunist? Because they never stop. Opportunism is a mindset, a deeply rooted way of navigating the world. They don't feel guilt for using people, they don't see relationships as emotional bonds, they see them as transactions. Forgiving them doesn't change them, it only resets their access to your resources. They will drain your time, use your connections, take your kindness for granted, and then vanish once they've collected everything they wanted. And the next time they return, it won't be because they miss you, but because they found a new opportunity in your success. Stoicism reminds us, do not give your energy to those who see you only as a tool. Walk away from opportunists, close the door gently but firmly. Protect your value, your circle, your growth. Because people who only show up when they need something were never meant to stay in your life. 9th, the one who competes with you secretly. Some people don't hate you, envy you openly, or sabotage you directly. They pretend to be your friend, support you, root for you, but deep down they are in a silent, private race you never agreed to join. These are the secret competitors, people who compare their life to yours in everything you do. Your achievements threaten them, your growth angers them, your progress triggers their insecurity. They don't clap when you win, they calculate. They don't congratulate you sincerely, they analyze how far ahead you are. They don't celebrate your milestones, they immediately think, how do I beat that? And the problem is you never signed up for competition. You wanted friendship, support, teamwork, growth, but they wanted a scoreboard. Stoicism teaches us to stay in our own lane, to compare ourselves only to who we were yesterday. But the secretly competitive person cannot live that way. Their identity is built around being better, not better than themselves, but better than you. They study your wins, your losses, your habits, not because they admire you, but because they want to stay one step ahead. Their behavior is predictable. 1. They downplay your achievements. If you tell them you got promoted, they'll say, "Oh, nice, everyone's getting promoted lately." If you reach a new milestone, they'll say, "It's not that hard." If you win, they'll find a way to make it seem smaller. 2. They copy you but pretend they didn't. Your style, goals, ideas, projects, they adopt them silently, then act like they thought of it first. 3. They only feel good when you fail. Your setbacks comfort them, your mistakes relax them, your struggles give them confidence. It's not that they want you miserable, they just want you beneath them. 4. They are friendly but never too genuine, because you cannot fully love someone you're competing with, celebrate someone you're trying to outperform, support someone you secretly resent. Stoicism warns us to avoid people who distort friendship with jealousy, because a secretly competitive friend is a hidden threat. They don't sabotage you outright, they sabotage you quietly, with doubt, discouragement, subtle negativity disguised as advice. They say things like, "Are you sure this is a good idea? Maybe you shouldn't aim that high. You're pushing yourself too much, calm down, you're doing too much." But pay attention, they never tell themselves those things. They only discourage you because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. Imagine you have a friend named Daniel. You both started your careers around the same time. You always encouraged him, supported his dreams, celebrated his successes without hesitation. Then you get a major opportunity, a promotion, a partnership, something you work hard for. Daniel smiles, but the smile is tight. He says, "Wow, that's cool. I mean, I could have done that, too, if I wanted, but I've just been focusing on other things." Later, you notice something strange, you mention you're going to the gym more, suddenly he becomes obsessed with fitness, you tell him you're learning a new skill, the next week he's learning the same thing, you say you're planning a business idea, a month later he tells people he thought of it first. One day, you casually mention you're saving up for a car. A few months later, he rushes to buy a car he can't even afford, not because he needed it, but because he needed to win. Then it gets worse, but whenever people praise you, he quickly shifts the conversation to himself. If someone compliments your work, he inserts his achievements. If you post a win online, he posts something bigger. It's not friendship, it's a rivalry you never asked for. And the final moment of clarity comes when you fail at something, a project collapses, an opportunity falls through, you're upset, and you turn to him. Instead of support, you hear that subtle satisfaction in his voice as he says, "Well, maybe it wasn't meant for you." That's when you understand, he doesn't want to grow with you, he wants to grow against you. Why you should never forgive them? Because secret competition is silent hostility. A friend who competes with you secretly will do three things: resent your success, imitate your path, quietly celebrate your failures. Even if you forgive their behavior, they won't stop, because their comparison isn't about you, it's about their self-worth. You cannot have a peaceful relationship with someone who sees you as a rival. You cannot build trust with someone who sees your achievements as threats. You cannot share dreams with someone who hopes to outdo you. And if you keep them close, they will drain your joy, poison your victories, turn every step forward into a psychological battle. A true friend doesn't compete, they cheer. They don't copy, they get inspired. They don't resent your growth, they rise with you. But a secret competitor will always choose ego over connection. Let them go, release them without anger, but with understanding. They weren't meant to walk beside you, they were meant to watch you rise from a distance they can no longer cross. 10th, the promise breaker. There are people who hurt you without shouting, insulting, or betraying you in dramatic ways. They hurt you through something subtler, quieter, far more corrosive, but broken promises. A promise is not just words, a promise is a bond, a commitment, a reflection of a person's integrity. When someone gives you their word, they're giving you a piece of their character. So when they break that word repeatedly, they're showing you exactly who they are. Promise breakers are dangerous because they operate in emotional shadows. They don't harm you with one big betrayal, they harm you through endless miniature disappointments that slowly erode your trust, your expectations, your hope in people. Stoicism teaches that a person's actions reflect their inner nature. And if someone breaks promises consistently, it's not because they forgot, life got busy, or it slipped their mind, it's because they do not value their word. And anyone who doesn't value their own word will never value you either. Promise breakers behave in predictable ways. 1. Their words are sweet but their actions are sour. They make grand assurances, promise the world, swear they'll show up, help you, support you, but when the time comes, they vanish like smoke. 2. They apologize beautifully yet change nothing. They'll say, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I swear it won't happen again, things just got complicated," but their apologies are rehearsed, excuses recycled, pattern unbroken. 3. They overpromise to keep you emotionally satisfied. To them, a promise is a tool, a way to keep you hopeful, patient, attached. Whenever they feel you drifting away, they make another promise to pull you back in. 4. They make you question yourself. You start wondering, am I expecting too much? Maybe they're really just busy. Maybe I'm being unfair. But deep down, you know the truth. People who care make time, people who don't, make excuses. Imagine someone named Sarah. She's your friend, partner, or family member. Every time she promises something, it sounds sincere. "I'll come to your event," promise. "I'll pay you back next week," promise. "I'll help you with that project," promise. "I'll be there when you need me," promise. But each promise becomes another disappointment. She doesn't show up to your event, never pays you back, forgets the project, is nowhere to be found when you need support. And when you confront her, she cries, apologizes, dramatizes her guilt. For a moment, you believe her. She sounds so genuine, remorseful, emotional, until the cycle repeats. One day you make an important decision based on her promise. Maybe you count on her for a ride, for help moving, for emotional support, for showing up to something meaningful. She promises. You trust her. You believe her. And again, she doesn't show, doesn't call, doesn't explain, doesn't even acknowledge the weight of her absence. That moment hits you. You weren't dealing with an honest person who made mistakes, you were dealing with someone whose word means nothing. And you realize something dangerous. You have been trusting a person who doesn't take trust seriously. Why you should never forgive them? Because promise breakers destroy stability. They make your world unpredictable, relationships shaky. They make you anxious about depending on anyone, make you second-guess yourself, and eventually, you stop expecting anything from anyone. Forgiving them doesn't fix them, forgiving them only resets the cycle. They make a promise, you believe it, they break it, they apologize, you forgive, repeat. The Stoics believe that a person's word is their honor. And someone who repeatedly breaks promises isn't just unreliable, they're disrespectful. They disrespect your time, your expectations, your emotional investment. A relationship with a promise breaker is a relationship built on uncertainty, and nothing healthy can grow in uncertainty. You deserve people whose actions match their words, people who don't need reminders to show up, who don't make promises they can't keep, whose loyalty is proven, not spoken. Let them go, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because someone who treats promises casually will eventually treat you casually, too. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these patterns you've experienced. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. It might be exactly what they need to finally protect their peace. Thanks for watching. Remember, your peace is not negotiable.